r/ask Reddit. What conspiracy theory do you believe in the most? I think some memes are started by businesses as a form of free advertising. The recent Duolingo memes got me thinking more about it. Duolingo wasn't a small app at the time, but it became a lot more popular after the fact. There have been other memes revolving around a particular product brand as well that make me think this is happening on a strategic level beyond some kid thinking it'd be hella funny to do this or that. I'm pretty sure this was happened with the movie Bird Box. It was all over Twitter and other social media before I even heard anything about it from Netflix. That's just a well-made marketing campaign. AirPods for sure. They became a meme right around Christmas season. And the meme was literally just if you have AirPods you're better than everybody else. All those DNA ancestor sites are giving the government your DNA for their record. I mean that's literally how they caught the Golden State Killer, like 30 years later. I believe that the government probably makes some conspiracy theories to try to make questioning the government seem somewhat crazy. I heard this recently about reptilians. Yeah, there's no such thing as reptilian aliens running our government and business. My lizard. Yes, you are correct, human friend. Now I must topple the government. I mean eat this fly. Coca-Cola tested HFCS in place of sugar and found that while the taste was similar, people could tell the difference. They brought out new Coke to cleanse people's palates and waited until as much of the original formula products had been sold as they could. Then they cancelled new Coke and brought back Coke Classic, which was the HCFS version, and people didn't have any original stuff left to compare it to. The only reason they made new Coke was to act as a buffer so people wouldn't notice the change in ingredients. I absolutely hate HFCS in my drinks. I went to India over the winter. Over there almost every soda has cane sugar as the sweetener, and I just can't deal with eating corn as my sugar. There's too much ducking corn in American food. I'll have to find the Twitter thread that documents all the uses we've found for corn and how it's in almost everything we eat. Mexican Coke is made with cane sugar and I can find it in glass bottles in almost every gas station in California. Marshmello doesn't actually produce his own music. My biggest piece of evidence is the creator arcade videos. He speaks and navigates Ableton like someone with only a basic knowledge of music production. He does everything number by number. Producers don't do that. You can't just instantly know that sound needs a boost of exactly 1 dB at exactly 1.2 kHz without even listening to the sound first. He randomly pauses every now and then, presumably to be fed lines. And he seems to lack even a basic understanding of music theory, recreating MIDI by randomly clicking in notes with no regard for the key of the song. Someone with the level of skill he demonstrates should not be capable of making radio quality hits. His song Friends with Anne-Marie is literally just a stock beat he got from a stock website. He just added the kick. Not really one single conspiracy theory, but I do feel like seemingly, quite often if a big political scandal is breaking, something tends to happen that dominates the news cycle for a little bit. A shooting, celebrity controversy, something. That is just basic political game. If something looks bad for political party A, then supporters and media of political party A push other news first and search for something bigger. Also, supporters of that political party runs to other news to keep their political bias in check. 2. Related to the US military, the US government pushed high school football on kids to get them in shape during the Cold War. The US government doesn't have free tuition for colleges due to many members of the military joining specifically to get college paid for. It would massively decrease the enlisted count. My dog is still living on a farm somewhere, 47 years later. This is true. Can confirm. Don't ask why or how. Too dangerous. I've already said too much. I'd like to think that's what heaven is. You die, you wake up at a farm with millions of animals, and all of a sudden all your pets come running through the mix and jump into your arms. Area 51 is just a front that was allowed to become popular in the public eye, but actually has nothing of value. Not saying aliens and bases exist, just saying Area 51 is allowed to be the popular secret base thing to cover up actual secrets. I must correct my previous statement. Camp David is a retreat, not an emergency location. However, that could also be a front. Also not downplaying what the airmen at 51 do. Just saying that what they do now is not likely as top secret as people are led to believe. I would say Mattress Firm, but that shit is so 2018. There's a great breakdown of this conspiracy on YouTube. Basically, the Mattress Firm across the street from a Mattress Firm used to be owned by a competing company, was bought up, and converted. Unlike something like a restaurant, mattress stores don't need heavy traffic to operate at a profit. People go to the mattress store when they need a mattress, not because they feel like it, so the locations are pretty cheap. So the conspiracy is that a company bought out their competition? No, the conspiracy is that Mattress Firm is a money laundering scheme. That the 2016 clowns were a marketing rouse to promote IT, the movie, by reminding people that clowns are scary as shit. Man, I forgot about that whole clown thing. 2016 was a wild year. The clown thing, the election memes, Harambe, God, those were the days. Michael Bay is a genius auteur who makes shitty movies on purpose. It's like his own little societal experiment, where he sees how shitty he can make a movie that still makes money, all while making fun of his audience for his own personal amusement. I like this one. I read an interview with Michael Bay where he said, "I make action movies for teenage boys. Where's the crime in that? He knows what he is doing." And he's right. The art world is basically a low-key way for rich people and companies to launder money, which is why the stupidest, most odd of paintings randomly go for hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't think that's a conspiracy theory so much as it is straight up reality. The very wealthy, like generationally wealthy, are known to put their money in art because it can't be taxed the same way and it generally appreciates rather than depreciates. There are only so many Monets and Beninis. But if you can spin a good story, any Joe Schmo can be the next Warhol. Yes, I'm a poor Philistine. Nightclubs are great for laundering money. Cash business with cover charges. Inventory management is someone looks at the shelf to make sure there's enough bottles. Employees are paid by tips. Whole lot of trust in the accounting of bars and restaurants. That our phones are always recording, at least audio, to target advertising of course, but more secret agent things as well. My mother-in-law talking at dinner about how hard it is to train for a marathon now that she is over the age of 55. I get ads all over Reddit, Google, whatever that read over 50 and a runner. Check out this random product. Within 4 hours of the conversation, I know there was a bunch of stuff about this, but I think every company denied it. Could be wrong though. I remember a couple years back I had a pain in the back of my mouth and went to the school nurse and told her I thought it was my wisdom teeth coming in. It was. A couple minutes later, my Instagram Explore page had a bunch of stuff about wisdom teeth removal. I always post the same one. Marijuana legalization is being pushed by Big Pharma. Once it's legalized, they will then push for restrictive regulations in the interest of public safety that will force shutdowns of consumer or small grow operations. Those are only allowed now to foster positive sentiment towards legalization. So then it's legal and they have a monopoly. I'm more likely to believe they'll turn CBD into a marketable prescription medication and then that will shut down legal cannabis. Used to be able to grow opium poppies too. Planned obsolescence. If it's still a conspiracy theory, why does my phone suddenly develop unseen issues when the new one is released? It's not a coincidence. And who even asked for these tech companies to release a new phone every year? We live in a time where technology is now growing at a rather slower pace compared to the 2000s when there was rapid innovation. It's not like my current phone is getting crappier in 1 year. But wait, IT applies to phones, tablets, smartwatches, basically most, rather expensive, internet-connected devices receiving updates. There's a recent increase in realistic space colonization movies to garner interest in space exploration, because some people at the top know it's needed. I hadn't thought of that. Heard that. It makes a lot of sense though. Josh from work stole my sandwich from the fridge, even though he was off that day. He stole it because he was off. He has a good alibi. And your sandwich. Marilyn Monroe was absolutely killed by the government. She had to be murdered. Nothing adds up. Too many people in the house at weird times. Too many people mad at her. Too many stories changing. Yeah, it seems crazy levels of obvious. JFK being shot by the intelligence services. I'm perfectly willing to believe Oswald was the shooter. What I have trouble believing is Jack Ruby murdered Oswald just due to some angry impulse. I was in the museum and they said most of his friends thought he probably did it because everyone thought he'd be locked for it. Moon's haunted and NASA is covering it up. Explains why it glows at night. The government was behind Throwback Thursdays in order to get people upload pictures they never would have had access to and help them improve age progression face recognition algorithms. Then what about Man Crush Mondays? The government is trying to compile a database of the sexiest men alive in order to shut down People magazine. That Avril Lavigne died in the mid-2000s and her record label hired someone who looked like her to take over her career. You mean to tell me she's had a career since the mid-2000s? Michael Jordan didn't decide to step away from the NBA to play baseball to honor his dad or anything like that. He got caught gambling and David Stern couldn't allow the league to lose all credibility with its biggest star being suspended for betting on games. He had him take a couple years off instead of publicly punishing him. There was a good doc on Netflix that went into detail about it. It's about the ref who would throw games and Michael accidentally got caught up in it when the FBI intercepted a phone conversation. KFC has been intentionally making their biscuits drier to sell more drinks. They have free refills, so it would be better for them to have moist biscuits, less refills. I think I am going to hear about the term moist biscuits. That Hot Ones makes the last chicken wing less spicy than they used to because somebody threatened to sue them. That the US government has staged attacks to justify a war. USS Maine. It exploded and sunk due to mismanagement and faulty things. They used that to blame Spain. PETA is ran by the meat industry to delegitimize vegetarianism, cutting back on meat. I feel like the same thing could be happening with all the anti-smoking vaping ads. All the UFO sightings throughout history are just humans from the future on a time-traveling safari meant to observe how we were in the past. They are supposed to keep out of sight, but because of human mechanical errors there have been hiccups with their cloaking which have resulted in being seen. That's why there have always been so many reports of them throughout history, but there has never been an attack. It's just us. Also the reason why we don't see as many examples of UFOs now even through pretty much everyone has a camera is because people are not that interested in this time period since we already document aspects of human life all the time. I dunno man. If I were a time traveler I'd visit ancient Egypt or the JFK's assassination and not fly around getting my stupid ass photographed in Bumbuck, Tennessee in 1981. This one is more personal but I fully believe it. Long story short, my father-in-law was good friends with a guy who was pretty high up in Boeing. Like, knew some top secret kinda stuff. Well, he ended up quitting as he couldn't take the pressure. He was a very paranoid person, to the point it was a hindrance to his life. Well, a few months after he starts telling my Phil that he's being watched and followed and that the government is coming for him. Like I said, insanely paranoid. A few extra details that will be important. He drove a moped as his primary transportation and he was very overweight. Lo and behold, he comes up dead a month or so later. The official story is this. He was riding along when a hitchhiker waved him down. He stopped to pick him up, drove a few miles down the road to a secluded wooded area, pulled off the road, walked into the woods and shot himself. I shouldn't need to explain what's wrong here but I will anyway. I'm supposed to believe that a guy with crippling paranoia picked up some random hitchhiker and then killed himself. Even if he wasn't paranoid, it's basically impossible for him to fit a small child on his moped with him, let alone a full-grown male adult. No information was ever released about the hitchhiker. No name. No statements to the police. Nothing. Sounds legit though, right? Nothing happens at Area 51. It's a chunk of highly protected land with nothing on it. Like, if you were gonna do shady government things would you do it in the place where everyone knows you're doing something? Area 51 is just a cover-up for a base elsewhere in the country. Nah, it probably has stuff. Just regular stuff though. It's 100% a military installation. Though probably the only real secret stuff there is the advanced jets they test. The Gov has admitted to testing the first stealth fighter there. I just don't think they have aliens or alien crafts there. That Jar Jar was meant to be the top Sith Lord in the prequels but the idea was scrapped after seeing the fan reaction to him. That's why Count Dooku is just kinda dropped into Attack of the Clones as though he was there the whole time. Tried telling a buddy this. Don't get me wrong. Jar Jar is still a horrendous character, but Dooku always felt out of place to me in Ep. 2, like he was supposed to be a different character, but they adapted it into Dooku. He didn't believe me. That a lot of the challenges, like the 10-year challenge, are orchestrated by big tech companies in order to gather data to develop RD. I don't think they'd need to orchestrate anything, especially at this point. Google and Facebook have been collecting and analyzing everything they can get their hands on for well over a decade at this point. Facebook doesn't need users to post pictures of themselves from 10 years ago, because Facebook already has the pictures they posted 10 years ago. The Earth is a zoo created by aliens and UFOs are visitors. In Lilo and Stitch, they said Earth was a wildlife preserve for mosquitoes, while the aliens refer to it as a preserve for mosquitoes. At the end of the movie we're told that it was a lie made up to protect Earth from destruction. Not trying to correct you or anything, just think it's a cool callback to the running mosquito gag throughout the movie. This I do believe. Sort by controversial. Done. Mostly 9/11. That our government had a hand in assassinating JFK. That the government has way more advanced technology than is available to the general public. Yet the only time they release technology is when better technology is created. Burke Ramsey killed his sister John Bennett. The concept of human civilization being far older than we are being told. You might be right, but not likely the way you are thinking. There well could have been advanced civilizations, now lost. Maybe they didn't build big stone things. Maybe they are in places now underwater. But by advanced I don't mean floating crystal towers and such. I mean had writing, weren't hunter-gatherers etc. That Princess Diana death was orchestrated by Prince Charles. I just can't wrap my head around the idea that this guy has an affair with Camilla and gets caught. Divorce happens and even during the divorce and after she is doing absolutely the best like just killing it still in her duties. Mom duties. The gorgeous revenge velvet dress. The entire world adores her. Then all of a sudden she dies in this car accident due to her driver. You know how many countless times she was driven by someone. Someone who was trained and hired specifically for the royal family. Then Prince Charles gets married to Camilla and all is right and well again in the public eye the world gets to see. That Hitler actually escaped to Argentina instead of killing himself in a bunker. There's a couple reasons I don't believe this, mainly because Hitler was such a larger-than-life personality that the thought of Uncle Adolf retiring quietly to some farm in South America and never emerging to try and restart the Reich isn't plausible to me. He would have literally had to completely change his mannerisms. I just don't see it. Federal law enforcement bodies are working with the public and private prison industries to flood the streets with heroin and fentanyl because they see the impending mass legalization of marijuana and can't risk that many empty cells. A massive uptick in street opioid use in the past few years combined with aggressive policies targeting legitimate pain patients and cutting them off of their medications, as well as restricting doctors' abilities to treat more people with things like Suboxone. It's not Big Pharma. Why would they allow their most popular and abusable medications to be all but banned if they're as big and powerful as everyone thinks? It's not like they're hawking new treatment drugs. And the government is working hard to ban natural alternatives like kratom on top of it. To me, it all points to a concentrated effort to increase drug-related offenses to keep fines and court fees rolling in and cells filled after weed is legal. Not sure if it's a conspiracy theory per se, but the Las Vegas shooting and the way it was presented to the public by law enforcement and the media was so ooper fishy. There's just a few too many coincidences and convenient gaps in information. The security guard disappearing and then magically reappearing for one controlled interview with an obvious handler sitting right by his side. The house getting broken into and the hard drives going missing. The girlfriend who disappeared and then reappeared and then disappeared again, who had apparently listed the FBI as a previous place of employment on a resume. The speed with which it just disappeared from the news cycle was really crazy too, considering it was the deadliest mass shooting in US history, especially when you consider how much the next 3 deadliest stuck around in the news cycle: Pulse, VA Tech, Sandy Hook. There's something that is critically important to the story that is being intentionally withheld. I'm from Colombia. In 1948, a liberal candidate that was very popular and would have probably won for president was shot. I strongly believe his death was planned by the then current government. I believe the recent reskin of the Sonic the Hedgehog is all a publicity stunt and was planned from the very beginning. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.